I realized that no matter what paperwork says, shareholder, director, it's just that whoever is visible is responsible.
सारे रामप्रस्थ रियलिटी प्राइवेट लिमिटेड पर फाइनेंशियल क्राइसिस आ गई, जिसके चलते कंपनी को दिवालिया घोषित कर दिया.
When a crisis first hits, what changes inside?
As a leader, you don't have a choice to get nervous and kind of run away. You have to still be sitting in that corner office. You have to show strength that there's nothing wrong.
Today, I'm joined by Vineet Relia, one of India's leading crisis managers and the author of Relax, It's Only a Raid. What did you lose during those years? Not just the phrase of 213 cases and 11 FIRs, internally what people don't know.
My son walks in home and tells me there's a protest going on against somebody. Somebody's looted people of crores and all. The unfortunate part is that the implication comes on your children and family.
Is every bigger title actually worth living?
I think titles don't matter anywhere.
The biggest mistake a senior executive makes in a crisis is?
Being loud. Don't even speak loud. Keep quiet.
You said be calm. Anxiety is there. You pick up calls, you start calling, and somewhere I read that it is all about timing.
There is fear. Fear leads to panic. Panic leads to you being into a crazy mode where you get angry. And please understand, the other party, law enforcement or whoever, even if it's a labor union, their job is to aggravate the situation. You have to calmly address everything and don't be egoistic. I think most of these guys feel that I am a CEO. Ye kya hai? Ek inspector hai. That's what spoils everything.
Crisis before it really hits. There's a lot brewing before. What are those warning signs that the leaders tend to miss or they take it for granted?
What I've seen is
So Vineet, thank you very much and welcome to my show.
welcome, it's a pleasure.
Yes, and I really was reading your book and we just have to be relaxed and calm, and it's great. When I saw the headline, I said, who can be relaxed? But that's exactly what you are trying to, talk in this. And before we get there, when you're a CEO, MD, leadership, it's a very shiny, visible designation, sort of a role. And people, in that, what you have been literally a fall guy, seen on the other side of it. So let's talk about it.
So I think in the years, let's say about 2013 to about 15, 16, for some reason I was selected to be the face of the company. There was a word used later. They said, PR, you should do, you're good. So I used to feel proud. Acha, I'm good, I'll do it, no problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I think I was very frequent on TV channels and newspapers, and even with the brand ambassadors, I was there almost like every alternate day, front page. And so yes, it was something. Probably I also started assuming there was something special about me, not knowing that, what was in store later. Later on, when the crisis hit us, that's when I realized that no matter what paperwork says and what's your real status on the company or the registrar of companies as a shareholder, director, it's just that whatever is visible, whoever is visible is responsible.
So what does it look like? What does leadership look like when the company is, suddenly under pressure or it's falling apart?
So I think a couple of things. First thing is, as a leader, you don't have a choice to get nervous and kind of run away. That's the biggest thing. You have to still be sitting in that corner office. You got to maintain the smile on your face, and you have to show strength that there's nothing wrong. So
and in your case,
worry.
your founders to directors, everybody disappeared,
Everybody went out of the country. They
Suddenly.
were like, "Theek, our India honeymoon is over. We are going back." So, and I think for me also, it was that some sense of, I would say, a mix of bravado leading or ego leading to certain bravado, saying that, I mean, kya hai, isme customers will pay, we'll make the houses, and end of story here. Why is everybody getting so angsty about it? Not realizing that, the issues are far deeper, and not knowing that what law enforcement, how do they react to leadership roles here?
Correct.
So yes, I think to answer your question, first is you got to maintain. Second, yes, you have to be very agile. In a crisis, the situation evolves very rapidly. So either you immediately attack and diffuse in a manner, or you got to delay and prolong. so that the agencies or maybe the media, they get busy with something else.
But so give me some examples, since now you run a crisis management company, having lived that life yourself, and now that you run. So any examples that how do you either diffuse it faster or delay it, like, for the.
So I think when you talk about diffusing any situation further, what you're talking about is, let's say you have somebody, a consumer activist or anybody who's sitting across. Somehow we tend to get into a sense of bravado that we are right and he's wrong, and we are big company and he's a small guy. What will you do? We'll see. And I think that's the mistake you do. And the recent example of these protests and all, you unnecessarily let people spiral up.
No,
In today's
absolutely.
time, even with buyers, everybody becomes such a big commentator and an expert on WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Whereas if you call physical meetings, hardly 10 will turn up ever. But again, with the VC and all, there's a lot of people turn up and everybody just wants to take out their frustration. So I think listening to them is a very, very important thing. Given a proper audience, given some, I won't say a commitment, some kind of assurance that, definitely it will be looked into, situations do tend to diffuse. So you might have a handful of 10 people who are doing it, but you'll have thousands who are frustrated for various reasons who will join and they
in.
want to take their frustration out.
Correct.
I mean, I faced many incidents like that. One of the incidents I never forget is, so I had gone visit, there were some complaints from residents who were living in our first phase, which was delivered. So there was a lot of resistance. So I had to go there with a foreign investor. And the company, as usual, had so many bouncers and human chain ki ye koi aaye to hum dekh lenge, investors ko idhar se visit kara udhar se. After the investors led, I said, listen guys, I'm going to walk down and go meet them. So they didn't like it, but I still did that. And there was a whole lot of crowd which came to me and all that happened. I think about hour to hour, once I sat, listened to everybody, most of them did. There was an old lady there. So I happened to just go to her. I said, Auntie, you look very matured. आपको क्या प्रॉब्लम है? बोली जब से इधर शिफ्ट हुई हूँ ना, बेटी की शादी नहीं हो रही.
अरे
लाइक तो मतलब आप प्रोटेस्ट में इसीलिए आ गई, आपकी बेटी की शादी. कह रही ये घर इतना दूर है, टाइम ही नहीं मिल रहा हमको लड़का देखने का. But just as an example, I realized that when people are frustrated, they tend to join and the crowd swells up.
Correct. So when a crisis first hits, what changes inside? Because now you've been inside, you saw this happening, like as a CEO, as an MD, and what happens with people inside before anything outside of the company starts? Because the panic is inside, right? Your tax guys came in, or your raid is coming in for any of these kind of situations.
So I think what happens also in this country uniquely is that even when tax comes, they actually come to your homes in the morning, right? So it's not limited to the office. I can quote an example of a ex-armed.
So you're saying income tax raid or anything like that?
Yeah. I mean, so he was a defense guy, not even a very like Subedar or something, but he felt very proud कि हम director है company का, and because we had so many companies, so almost everybody was a director somewhere, right? Now 6 o'clock in the morning, his whole lane where he stayed is blocked by police and income tax guys are inside the house.
Wow.
Now what happens is all your neighbors are going to look at you. He had a newly wedded son, so the daughter-in-law calls her home कि पता नहीं यहाँ पे तो क्या घपला हो रहा है. So I think the tendency suddenly is that there is pressure from homes that you please quit immediately. There is something wrong.
Correct. True.
The biggest threat for the leader is that the whole organization might now focus on just running away. You might just dismantle, if I may use that word. So how do you hold them together?
That's
yeah.
Exactly
So I
my
mean,
next
for
thing.
me, what I did was I visited them in the evening. I assured there is nothing wrong. These are routine matters, and but like I remember a very senior general who was a director. So the income tax people asked his wife couple of times, take off your earrings. So she was so upset with that even when I went in the evening just to say that, don't worry, we are standing behind you. We are never going to let it down. It doesn't really fully cure it because, but yes, you can probably, they just get a handle to tell their families, listen, he came, he was with us. we can't let him down. So that's how a lot of people have been with me almost 20 years. There is a whole team of people which is still, because they know at least I'll be there with them.
What about reputation? Because this is a huge reputation damage, right? Because आपने कितना भी नहीं किया हो, but at that moment, because and today, given there's social media, there is WhatsApp, there are all sorts of news on, and then the neighbor and everybody. तो आपका एक जो reputation होता है इतने सालों का, suddenly people always say कि दाल में कुछ काला, इसने कुछ तो किया होगा, no matter, because that's the immediate perception that starts. So what happens to the reputation risk?
I think 2-3 things happened. I still remember when something happened, I had to take an immediate flight to Bombay, meet the top business newspaper guy who was writing. I had to convince him for 1 hour. These are the papers. Please see this. Finally, I managed to convince him that, okay, please diffuse the damn thing. There's nothing wrong. So in the earlier world, I thought it was easier because you had specialized PR who were able to arrest.
Yeah.
And if nothing else, at least give you an opportunity to put your case forward.
Right.
Today, what we are seeing is every individual has become a reporter with his smartphone and Facebook and Instagram.
All creators,
and he's going to write whatever he wants. And the unfortunate part is that the implication comes on your children and family.
Absolutely.
Because wherever they'll go,
Absolutely.
the other kids are going to say, kal dekha Instagram pe, reel pe, inke ghar mein arrest hua, inke ghar mein raid hua, ye hua. Now that's really damaging. Fortunately, in my times when we had peak of raids and all, those things were not that prevalent. Now, in a recent assignment we handled, what we had to do was, as a first step, we had to remove all the signages of the company overnight. We removed each and every branding, whatever was there, changed the guards. Nobody recognizes which plant it is, because we were sure that in spite of explaining to media, there'll be these individuals taking pictures and doing. So you got to really, and yes, you can have ORM systems which are constantly monitoring, but somehow I've seen the moment you react, you are giving them more ammunition to trigger a conversation.
Absolutely. I remember, so we were doing one campaign in my erstwhile health insurance business, and we had Vikrant Masse as a part of our campaign. He had at some point in time in his life spoken against some community, and overnight there was this one whole tribe of group who was attacking. Who was attacking us and who was attacking, and that one mistake why my ORM team did, because they were trained to at least respond and say that we are listening to you. And in these things, you're not supposed to. You're just supposed to keep, like you're saying, you're just supposed to keep quiet. Let it. They did that nice response, and that aggravated. So by the time it came to me, I said, we cannot. Conversations only ignite more. Absolutely. So talking about your book, right? Your book is called Relax, It's Only a Raid. I love the title, but you can really imagine the human emotion when there's an actual raid. So it's not really also about raids. You're talking about everything. It's about labor crisis. You're talking about fraud. You're talking about bio-protest accidents. There are a lot of things. It's not just raid, right? So what really got you to do this and write?
So I think when it happened to me, I thought probably I was the unique one out. How can it happen to anybody? I mean, I was doing a job, I was doing well, I've not done anything wrong. But in my later part of trying to solve my own crisis, I used to be with lawyers most of the time, and I realized it's happening to a lot of people. Unfortunately, there's such a serious taboo about it that nobody wants to talk about it.
These are not something you highlight.
I can never forget the day I was in Bombay. I was with the topmost lawyer, I will not name him, and I asked him कि मतलब अच्छा लगता है बेल के लिए लेके जा रहे हो वो मोटर बोट में बिठा के गेटवे ऑफ इंडिया से क्या कर रहे हो? He said आपको पता है यहाँ जितने बड़े बड़े इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट हैं उनका ये एडवांटेज होता है पुलिस को घर ले जाके बेल कराते हैं हर महीने. I said, yeah, I don't know what he's talking. But what I realized was that yes, there are a lot of situations which are built around a multinational's visible figure.
True.
Just to extort money, just to settle a commercial. And the key reason is that in this country, the commercial disputes cannot be resolved through court. 20-25 years for a resolution, who's going to wait? Arbitrations are so expensive that the dispute is not worth the, you'll go to Singapore, you'll keep flying. I remember in one of our arbitration, we spent about $2 million. Wow. I mean, for what? Finally, what happened? The dispute was settled in Bombay through a toss. टेल्स आया तो आप ये वाला लैंड लेना, हेड्स आए तो हम लेंगे.
My God.
You know, so ultimately, what is it?
So what's in theory and what's in reality is
yeah,
very
so
different.
what happens is people turn every commercial dispute into a criminal. And the logic being very simple that if we put pressure, settlement में help होगा.
ज़्यादा.
Yeah, I mean, because
समझ
ultimately everything is led to a settlement only.
Correct.
In every crisis, everything you cannot win or lose. It will be some
Settlement.
settlement. It'll be, the positions will change. You'll
Correct.
probably have a different position. But if you put more pressure, the guy comes under pressure, you get a better deal. That's all.
So ultimately it's all about
Yeah.
settlement and deal you are saying
Absolutely.
outside. बाकी क्या हो रहा है उससे
बाकी
कोई
कुछ नहीं है. वो
मतलब
खाली
नहीं है.
आप सीनियर लॉयर लेके जाओगे 10, यू शुड बी क्लियर दैट उसका लॉयर जूनियर है, मेरा सीनियर है, तो उसको वो फोन करेगा, अरे उन्होंने तो सीनियर रख लिया, तो वो प्रेशर में आएगा. You see, these things are also their gimmicks, you call them, or pressure tactics.
So in a situation now that you've gone through, what would you tell the organizations today? And I'm sure the mature organizations, that what should they be ready with? What kind of a team is required to handle something like this?
I think one of the first things, and I learned this from famous actor Sanjay Dutt, he'd been invited for one of conference. Very important that everybody in the core leadership, senior, middle and top leadership, understand the law around their business. You see, that's very, very important.
So it's not a compliance department only or the risk.
You just can't leave it to a nodal officer.
Nodal officer.
So what is happening is, in our case also, you name it, and the top firms were advising us. We were audited in IFRS and GAAP, both accounting standards.
Yeah.
Almost every year, 6 or some 7 representatives from some investor used to come and audit us. Everything was clean. Unfortunately, what I've seen is that the understanding of all these big firms and large, the blue blood executives, they don't understand law, and they are being judged by a sub-inspector or an inspector in an economic offense wing. That guy knows his job pretty well. Bombay EOW, Delhi EOW, they can read your shareholder agreements like anything, and they can smell something is wrong.
Wow.
Now what happens is, you are stuck between a fancy structuring versus a simple guy who says this is wrong.
This is wrong. And then those blue-eyed, the blue blood managers, you're saying they are always waiting for somebody to come and bail you out.
They're going to run away.
Oh, they're going to run away.
I've seen that in my case. They just kind of run away. That we were merely advisors, or we don't know, we didn't have the experience. They're going to run away is my view. And even in our case, the top audit firms, I think the top 2 of the big 4 were summoned by police. They were panicking, and then they said, "Hamara kaam to audit ka tha, ye paper aapko padna pad lo." I tried asking, boss, you were the one who was signing on balance sheets. If something is wrong, you should point out, yaar.
Correct.
Why would we do it in the first place? But you said everything is great, you signed.
So suddenly there's nobody. You're a lone man standing,
I think it's very important, and I realized this. For me, 2 things happened: the crisis and COVID in my personal life. So I realized that ultimately you have to be self-dependent. So that's why I tell people, please be aware of what the law says, and the law, not on the words, the intention of the law. Fortunately, COVID, lot of courses were free, so I did a law course also, and that's where I learned that it's the intention of the law what matters. It doesn't, your law may you are right, but it'll take you 7-8 years to reach a trial court. The harassment is in the process. It's not that you will be convicted any day.
So just to reach there by itself is
you will never reach that stage
7-8 years.
My first FIR was 2018, and I didn't take it seriously because the homes were delivered by the time they lodged the FIR. So I said, "ठीक है, तू घर दे दिया, अब क्या what FIR?" But today, 2026, my discharge petition is yet to be heard, which means my papers are yet to be read by a court.
So you're saying, so then the corporates today should, the middle management, the top senior management, everybody should be aware about the law on their business. That's one important thing. Anything else that you think they should be ready with?
I think you got to be aware, and then you got to be really have some options of lawyers. You just can't rely on just one law firm which has probably been advising you for 10 years. Because, it's good to interact and have some multiple, because at these situations, it's like a disease, you always take a second opinion from a doctor, you take a third opinion, and you never know what some smart lawyer tells you, which will, hit you really. Ultimately, I've seen you have to fight your cases yourself. And in many cases, I've seen the individual who's working hard on his case tends to beat a large corporate, because in the large corporate, there is just one junior legal officer who's briefing the thing.
So from an IT company to a crisis man, I mean, being an IT by background, by CTO by background, doing all of these things, and now running a crisis management company because you went through crisis. What really got you to build that?
No, so like I said, two things. One, I didn't have a choice. I mean, I lived in Gurgaon. Biggest crisis were in Gurgaon, and like I said, my ego, bravado, whatever mix of feelings, I went to the customer. I said, "Listen, what's your problem? You guys pay in the RERA account, and we build the homes. Why are you making a noise unnecessarily in this that?" And today also the charge sheet against me says that he's the only person who interacted with customers, so he's guilty. Now,
Oh, because he interacted.
it's absolutely written
Oh
in
my
the court.
God.
And there are all my
That's
colleagues have
crazy.
been absolved because they said, we don't know any customer, we don't understand finance, we don't know anything. The only inspector can say is that salary kis baat ka mil raha tha tumko. So my charge sheet actually says that as per
Oh, that's
records of
crazy.
most of the customers, he's the one who interacted, met them and explained to them. Now, my point was, listen, I've never met them. They've bought homes on their own. I was not in sales. But when there was a crisis, I was willing to go up and talk to them that if you want, we can build a
Correct.
solution. So
Correct.
that taught me that when there's an accident on the road, please don't try and help. Look the other side and drive your car.
But see, now that's the other reality. Otherwise, because in most of our corporates, we have this customer service team, and the first job is, and then there is the the
Escalation
escalation team. Absolutely, all also the people where there are critical these kind of things that is happening. So, and grievance team when
Yeah.
there is grievance, right? So we have these large teams which is built, and now we're saying in these kind of things, if they don't step up, and if they step up, that comes as a part of the FIR. किसने help किया तो अब यही
Huh?
criminal है. I
So
think that's
in
crazy.
in our case today, there is this young boy who was just a CRM executive. He almost cried that I don't even have money to pay to a lawyer. With great difficulty, I got another job. His fault was that he was the first level to pick up the customer complaint. He transferred in the escalation matrix, he transferred to the CRM head. She's accused. She has to visit the police station. From there, it went to the department head for CRM and construction. That fellow is accused. Finally, it came to me because I was there. Now, the owners of the company are nowhere in the picture. We were getting directions from them. Monies were all controlled by them. Debt guys were controlling. But so, yes, exactly to your point, if you're the first point in this country in a FIR, you can name just about anybody.
And they take it, and they
No,
still
they will take it. No, they'll say it's a first information report. We will now
First
investigate the
information.
matter. So your harassment starts.
Wow. Imagine, and we build these kind of teams to really bring in customer first servicing, believe in, that we are servicing. That's the whole moat. Most of the organizations have this as their differentiator. Service first,
No,
customer
so
first.
we were also known for delivering on
Yeah,
time.
but now when I'm
But then
listening
when
to
things
you-
go bad, then what
Yeah.
happens?
Yeah, but when I'm listening to you, it's really scary on the other side. So your life has really changed sharply, right, Vineet, with your Sare home period. And so now that you are not a promoter or an owner, you're running your own organization, but yet you were left facing like 213 civil cases is what I read, and 11 FIR. So you've gone through all of that. So now that you're running your own critical management company for other to help, so what are the kind of things that you're solving?
No, so I think so this firm happened by coincidence. When I first got into this whole crisis, I said, in other companies, I have seen that there is a promoter, there is some Lalaji or some business family. They
yeah.
take care of it, The
Yeah.
professional is normally little bit harassed,
Yeah.
and then he probably leaves the job or whatever.
Correct.
In our case, it was a private equity owned company. So I was like, who do I go to? Because those guys are saying we had invested, it's written off. So you get an email, it's written off, and then what do you do with it? And so then somebody suggested you have these interim managers. And one of the biggest names in the world, they operate in Bombay. I happened to have a meeting with them that, guys, I've heard this happens, so why don't you please come and take this up and let me go? So two issues happened. One, they came up with such a huge fees that a company in trouble cannot afford. Second, they said we'll only do the MIS and cash management. So my question was, who's going to face those guys? No, that is your job. I said, then why do I need you, man?
Helping, yeah, correct.
And this followed by me, interacting with a expat who was roaming with bodyguards, and I was like, I couldn't control myself. Like, who's gonna kill you, yaar? Why are you roaming around with these jokers with you? He's like, no, there is scrap mafia. They have threatened me. This, that. So we solved a scrap mafia issue, and he was like a cakewalk for us. We had just come out of Sare, so we were also frustrated. And chalo, let's go solve somebody's issue. We'll feel good, and probably he'll pay us also. Since then, we've done scrap mafia, we've done shareholder disputes, we've done labor unions, we've done law enforcement issues. So, we send our people everywhere. We're currently in the process of a big investigation. So, but these are more corporate investigation, nothing personal really.
Right, sure. So your experience has led you to...
Yeah, and the whole concept is wherever the top management doesn't want to get exposed or they don't want to face it directly.
Right.
Even your law firm, what does it do? Gives you a manual. This is what you should do. Then there is a fight. What do you mean I should do? I'm not going. So you are going to delegate it to somebody. He's going to say, Mera kaam thodi hai. He's the MD. He should go. So I've seen these situations happening in companies.
So you all mediate the situation? Or
No. So we are normally, what we have done is we are appointed as interim managers. So we go like the MD or whatever. We say, this is our letter. We are the company now. Talk to us.
So you actually now put yourself in the situation?
We actually put ourselves in the situation, even if it is hostile or anything. Because if you go as a mediator, then then they'll assume you're a lawyer or somebody, and then the discussion is totally different.
But now you already have gone through this once, and again now you are... I find it quite... again, I find you brave, and that you are now going to different companies and also being their mediator or being their representative, including if there was a raid or anything that you have to go.
Labor unions
normally, and all that.
Raid is something they would suddenly happen. So, you can't do much about a raid. And it is normally local mafias. That's a very, very prevalent thing, especially with these truck unions and scrap materials and all that. Yes, we go talk, we stand there, we talk to them. In one of the cases, we had multinational wanted to shut down a manufacturing facility. So we took over the plant, and in the morning, those guys came, who are you? We are the company now. You tell us what to do. So yeah, we do that.
So you sort of mediated. But usually tell me the crisis before it really hits, like really whether the raid is coming or the union is coming, there is a lot brewing before.
Yeah.
Ye sab pehle chalu ho jata hai. It's not ki suddenly...
No, never.
One night. So what are those warning signs that the leaders tend to miss or they take it for granted?
What I've seen is there'll be like what used to happen with me. There's suddenly a notice which drops in, let's say, for example, income tax. And in many cases, it doesn't even come up to you.
It was in your book also. I think you did written
so
that
once
chapter,
it
right?
came up to me, and I was like, so your CFO said, ye to tax wala guys, they know nothing, you don't worry. I'll call the auditor. You call the auditor says, no, these guys don't understand. They don't even know what to do, and they just keep, they're going to create that kind of situation in front of you. But somehow, because it came to me, I said, acha, that's fine. You guys are very intelligent. Kindly explain to me what this means and what we have done. I think that told me something is wrong. You guys are just trying to cover it up.
Yeah.
And the moment you see that your CFO, because companies there are a lot of politics around every organization.
Yes. Right.
No CFO is ever going to agree that he's goofed up.
Correct.
And maybe he wanted to show numbers and, you shore up balance sheets. You must have done something here, there, which is not a crime really, but you've done it now. There is a notice. So now you're saying those guys don't understand. And you're hoping that you will hire a witch doctor and he will go fix it and he'll never come back. But in my view, I think these things at least take a year, because it starts with a simple, nowadays it starts with let's say a suspicion transaction report, STR they call it. So even if you move couple of crores and normally you don't do that, suddenly the bank might just somebody in the bank puts a STR signal, and that triggers because it's all AI and algorithm driven now. But I think the biggest question is to be asked. In the Western world, they always ask about a DNO insurance, the Director and Officer Liability Insurance.
Oh, okay. So, there's a concept like that.
Yes. And India also, when I heard, I immediately called those guys, yaar boss, we had paid for something because one of the foreign investors told us, and that time we didn't even bother. He said, kitne ka hai? Wo bola kuch lakh ka. I said, de dena yaar, wo invest kar raha hai. What's your problem? So I called the DNO fellows. Listen, I've got in a crisis. I've heard you will pay for my lawyers and everything. So they very smartly said, sir, please understand, as per your policy, we not even read the document ever. As per your policy, once you win the case, we will pay you. I see you out of your mind or what? मतलब मैं कहाँ से lawyer लेके आऊँगा? But what I realized, all our counterparts in the Western world who were working with us, it worked like a medical insurance for them. You know, so like a
You could claim it.
yeah, the lawyers immediately take your policy and they keep charging the insurance company.
Nice.
So that's pretty interesting. In
Yeah.
India, it's evolving, but still, the issue here is that if the cases are still made criminal, DNO will not really
It will
support
not
that.
work. Mm.
So, you got to be very careful now. We advise people on DNO also that at least have it. I'm not saying it's going to work 100%, but at least you got to
You've
have
got
it
something.
and you got to read that document properly. I have known of cases where topmost lawyers are taken by these companies when the premiums are very high. They take lawyers and they pay for the lawyers.
So yeah, you need that support for sure. How should a person know whether they have a real authority and now it's not just a designation?
No, so I think the issue there is that, okay, I am visible. Everybody, like what I saw in my case, people assumed I was the owner of the company. Even today, everybody assumes. In the flight this morning, the lawyers, in fact, they were lawyers against me. They are good friends now. So he introduced me, ये सारे के मालिक थे. So यार, अब तो छोड़ दे, मालिक नहीं था मैं. I think the problem was I didn't have authority to control funds. I had to seek approvals for payments and everything from another expat. However, I refused to tell people, bhai main owner nahi hu. I do that now, but I never did that.
No, exactly, because when you're a CEO, MD, and I see most of my colleagues
Yeah.
I've seen over the years, and because you're out there, you're talking to customer,
Yes.
you're on LinkedIn, now there are many social handles.
Yeah.
So you are literally the face for the brand, but you are actually not the owner. That's true. The owner or founder koi aur hai. But when this kind of crisis hits, then what do you do?
No, nothing. Whoever is visible is going to face it.
It's going to face it.
Yes.
So
There's
whether
no
you have
other-
control or not, it doesn't matter.
If you have control, you might be able to, let's say, for example, somebody faces a crisis. He doesn't have control on the company funds. He won't be able to pay for a lawyer also.
And the company has to step up and
Like
help.
I didn't get salary for 2 years. Then what do I do then? Nothing. My staff didn't get salary for 6 months. But initially, there's this whole...
But you couldn't resign and go also.
No, that's not the point. You see, the point here was that if you're a committed person, a lot of us have come through that generation where for us, even if you don't need a job is your work, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Not like the youngsters today, they'll come in to hell with your job. I'm going next
Yeah,
door.
yeah.
I'm going. There's no,
वही है.
now to there's no culture, only job. Ka, they have no respect left, So it was that whole belief and commitment in my work which said, no problem if the salary is delayed. Oh, ho jayega, that's not a problem. Ho jayega. Wo, but, it keeps spiraling up and in between you get some money, then there's a big break. And yeah, so you don't really control that. You could raise money from anywhere and do anything you want. That's the control I'm talking about there, that if I had total control, probably I would have raised, and I did raise a lot of money from PE. However, one fine day, I realized when there was an order on Delhi High Court which said that none of us in India had any control. And we didn't have the papers also, copies of those papers also, which were made the basis.
So Vineet, as per you, now that you have seen this closely and you run crisis management, are the laws different in Western countries, more favorable when things like this? Because yes, things can go wrong, projects can go wrong, things can go down. What happens there vis-a-vis in India? Because once that FIR is done, your harassment starts.
I think I recently wrote a piece in ET also where I said that in this country, there has to be a clear distinction between commercial disputes and criminal.
Correct.
Police, let them focus on dacoities and rapes and whatever crimes are happening.
Real crimes,
Abhi,
yeah.
police mein the most prime, it's like a page 3 place is the EOW. You'll see all fancy big cars there and you tend to meet so many people. Acha, aap bhi aao, hum bhi aaye. It become like a party circle more than, and none of them have killed anybody or looted anybody. It's just an economic offense, right?
Correct.
So the problem here is if I'm working in a company, forget my case, I was still, you can call me senior most, a CRM executive who's just picked up a call. What's his issue that he had to take bail in January along with me? He said, sir, 2016 में एक कॉल अटेंड करी थी, मैं बेल लेने अब आया हूँ in 2024. The guy won't believe only. We had to finally convince him, boss, please take bail. They'll arrest you otherwise.
Oh my God.
See, that's the problem.
That's
How
the problem,
the
yeah.
criminalization of all commercial things, you need a clear distinction.
You're right.
Now versus our expats, now everybody ran there, but for us, since the investors were private equity guys, so they all sued them in Cyprus. The courts clearly ruled, no, this is, you cannot personally hold them responsible because this was a business thing. Your clauses said this has happened. There is no case for any personal involvement.
This is so important now. That what you're making is, I think because you write and you're releasing a book, there has to be a reform happening because you're right. The criminal side and the lens that you put for it, and the corporate issue, the
Yeah.
lens that you put is very different.
Very, very different.
So ये आप पूरी family को घसीट रहे हो. I remember, I mean, in your book you said that they went to your father's house or troubled your 82-year-old.
Yeah.
For, I mean, that's not done. So that's all emotional playing together at the same time. How did your family take it up?
So I
that's
think
fair.
my wife, kids, I didn't even tell them. They obviously knew something was happening. Fortunately, timing was just before COVID. So COVID ke baad to everything was a crisis. So I could, I think what really broke the news to them was there was a protest outside the group housing we were living, and so all the neighbors also see Relia, hi, and all that kind of nonsense. Even after COVID and everything, the first time we could really afford to travel, I traveled one day after them, and I would come one day after them, because otherwise at the airport, even with a court permission, you need about 30 minutes to stand, and in that immigration queue, everybody's looking at
That's
you, and you
embarrassing.
assume that so many known people are standing.
That's
So
not-
and with a small daughter and son, they'll get very anxious that
Correct.
why is my father being, why are they taking so much time? What's wrong? They'll ask so many questions. Kids want to know so much. And I think it's only after the book that my daughter has read the whole book, and now she starts reading. Now I understand why that year this didn't happen, that didn't happen. Yeah, so it's very, very important because on the other side, I have also seen some other people where the families tend to disown also.
That's
I've
even
seen
tough.
partners saying that I didn't ask you to do this. Why should we face the music?
Correct.
And that's why I feel it has to be your self-help, and
Correct.
you got to be really, if you want to be an entrepreneur in the country, make sure you are mentally strong, you are legally strong, then do it. Otherwise, trust me, one day you're going to land up in a major accident.
That's tough. Yeah. I know what you're saying is, I think all my viewers who are listening to it, it's not the hunky-dory side, but this is real life. And this is what I love doing on the podcast. These are real stories. You've really gone through difficult time. Today, in the hindsight or in our conversation, it may sound very easy. And in your book also, you've written in a very light-hearted manner some of these things, but these are real tough days that you have to. And you also wrote about the reality of then being on medication, and really you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so I think when so as it is, I somehow feel that all top leadership should do some kind of thing, because your mental health system is very, very important.
True.
Important than anything.
True.
While all of us talk about, and social media and everything is about those, from Tai Chi walking to from your
meditation.
whoops has become the new Rolex and all that kind of thing. I think it's very, very important that your mental health system, as it is, there is so much
Sleep,
organizational pressure.
Correct.
The pressure to perform is so much nowadays,
Right.
with the numbers going and the VC world and valuations.
And with all this geopolitical all the time,
There's always a crisis.
there's always crisis.
Like
in
you
fact.
said, every project will get delayed, every cost will go up, and there will be sales cycles which will just kill you.
Correct.
So these things are bound to happen. So I think there's something required. But yes, for me, fortunately, that's the first thing I did. And I've been now almost 12, 13 years on medicines, and I'm pretty proud of it. And I think they are the ones who at least keep me smiling all day.
That's
I'm able
nice
to sleep
talk,
well.
yeah.
And I didn't have any taboo about it, and I speak very frankly. A lot of people think it's a big taboo around why should we do
Mental
this, why
health,
should and then the other thing is, like in India, what happens whenever you go through a crisis, your family, I don't think there is support from family or like the extended relatives and all, but somebody will come with some puja, somebody will come with some ये कर लो meditation.
ज्योतिष
हाँ मतलब ज्योतिष आ
Astrology तो
जाएगा,
बहुत
वो इस
बड़ा
दिन
है.
ठीक होगा, आपका शनि है, आपका शुक्र है, ये है वो है. I mean, the point is, I am facing such a severe shit. I don't know how to live. If I start to meditate at that time, trust me, meditation takes 15-20 years for you to reach that
Reach
stage
that
where
level.
you're able to completely control your
Correct,
mind.
correct.
And it's not that I didn't try. I mean, I also live in a family and I had to do everything.
Correct.
Finally, one day they told me not to wear these stones. I said, no, I will wear this stone. Let me see what happens. So, yeah, so these are like, symbolic things
Yeah.
you keep doing to challenge the system. But I think end of the day, you have to have like you have a physician, you got to have somebody so that
Yes.
if your mind is not in your control, trust me, you will fail for sure.
Correct. There's nothing else said. Absolute. Very well said. Coming to, so have you now changed your view about what ambition, what designation, career growth looks like them? And, is every bigger title actually worth living? Like, has
Yes,
your
my views have drastically changed now. And, I think the titles are, I don't know, they're just, the titles don't matter anywhere. And I keep telling people, there is a Indian company who had a Malik, Nokar, Chakar and Pisus. They're hard workers, then there is this owner. That's all you have. But I think titles don't matter to me anymore. Wealth, yes, wealth creation is something I did not do in my career, because when you're in a job, there is only limited you can
Yeah,
do, because
absolutely.
your expenses also tend to grow along with your salaries,
lifestyle
So,
starts
yeah,
changing.
I mean,
right.
you grow up, then your demands from the family, children,
Yeah.
parents, everything just kind of
Correct.
expenses go up. So, yes, I look at wealth creation, and I think what I focus now is that what do I enjoy doing the most? Somehow this things have started giving me a kick, so I
Nice.
love doing it.
Yeah.
Yes, it helps me have a good living also, but I think very, very important to do what you really enjoy and what you really believe in.
That's true. So now, taking your book for a second before I ask more questions, I also want my readers to look at this book. It's called Relax, It's Only a Raid. Vineet, who are the people who should really, really read it?
So, when I was writing the book, my TG was senior managers and CXO levels who should read it. Now, I think the MBA colleges don't teach any of this.
Yeah, you're right.
So and because a lot of them are getting into the whole startup
Founders,
thing,
yeah,
right?
correct, startup.
So I think from youngsters who are in the startup field, they definitely need to read it, because they do not have any experience. Even when you're a CXO, you would have seen a lot.
Correct.
You're typically about 25 years or 30 through the whole ladder. So you've seen something happen to somebody else, or you've been part of where 20 people were there.
Right.
But these startup founders have not seen anything, so for them it's very important. So I would say that anybody who's even setting up a small business, it's important to read this. Don't take anything lightly. And then I wrote it, it took me 2 years to write. And the way I wanted to write is not to scare anybody.
Right.
I've tried to put in enough, to make it interesting, so that it has 3 parts. You'll have some real cases also mentioned, so that people don't think it's a fiction.
Correct.
Yeah. So I think it's important from anybody who's wanting to venture into being an entrepreneur, a founder entrepreneur, to the CXOs of the world, they should read.
They should read. And I agree with you that in our MBA colleges, because these are all real life experiences, and they should start from there. And I hope you're going to MBA colleges to talk about this whole issue that you've gone through. One of the things that you said that, because generally when there is anything big like this, people crisis, like union crisis happening, like the labor crisis, or there is this raid, obviously the income tax raid, or even the ED thing, even another level, you said be calm. And not, because obviously your anxiety is there, you pick up calls, you start calling, and somewhere I read that it is all about timing. There's no point picking up calls. So can you talk more on that?
See, I think, so the first instinct when anything happens is, you start chest thumping that मैं देखता हूँ इनको, I see it, ऐसे
मैं
नहीं
भी इसको
होगा,
जानता हूँ, इसको जानती हूँ.
And you pick up your phone and you call 20 people, and I will call this one, I will call that one. And a recent case, there was somebody picked up because of a LOC. He was coming back to the country, and there was no intention of the authorities to arrest him, but he, in his panic, panic leads to there is fear leads to panic leads to you being into a crazy mode where you'll pick up
Correct,
phones and
correct. Because
you get
this is
angry.
fearful.
You get angry then, is
Yeah.
fear, panic, angry. In the angry mode, he happened to call some big politicians, this, that, and then the phone came. The authorities said, sorry sir, you called 15 minutes late, we have already signed the paper for arrest, now nothing can happen. After that, he had to say 9 months he was in the jail. So you got to be really calm about it and try and improve the thing. And please understand, the other party, law enforcement or whoever, even if it's a labor union, their job is to aggravate the situation.
Right.
In my case, I was pretty cool all the time. I think the only thing when they said something about my wife that she will cry here and beggar. I was then cool. Then she said, "Us budde ko utha ke na andar kar denge." That really hurt me, and I politely said, "You're a government servant. I don't think it really serves right that you speak about a 82-year-old man who can't even see properly. You go at the door and you start saying, "हम मीडी से आए हैं, तेरा बेटा कहाँ है?" What do you expect him to react?
Correct.
तो I just said politely, आपके घर में भी होंगे, अच्छा लग रहा है ऐसे बोलना आपको, आप सरकारी अफसर हैं तो I didn't, they were expecting that they were expecting that I would abuse or do something so that they can arrest me. You please understand, their job is to aggravate the situation.
Wow.
I just happened to politely said that it doesn't look nice. You are serving the nation. You're a government servant. Let's talk respectfully about elders. Whatever you want to say to me, say, there's no problem.
Correct.
So I think it's very, very important. Please understand, they are doing their job. You had a job, they have a job. Their job is that, unfortunately. Now, if you, उसका KPI वही है. Their KPI is कि अच्छा easier है ना, वो भड़केगा, कुछ हाथ वाथ उठा दे, गाली उठा के अंदर डाल दो ना, केस अपना भी सिरदर्दी खत्म हुआ. So I think that's their KPI. So you got to cooperate. You have to calmly address everything and don't be egoistic. I think most of these guys feel that I am a CEO. ये क्या है, एक inspector है.
Correct.
That's what spoils everything.
It's crazy, when I listen to you, मुझे भी लगता है कि I mean, it's tough, because there's a lot of things that is happening. Face off, your people are saying, your employees are saying, there's lots that going in your mind, right? And you are also really worried कि अब कुछ किया है, नहीं किया है, क्या है. And in our country, when it comes around law, we know कि तो लंबा चलेगा. Because we don't have it easy, unfortunately. So that's true. So now that the, one thing that comes through strongly in the book is that power does not always sit with the CEO, like you, or the board, you said. It can sit with a union leader, a local operator, an angry buyer group, a police complainant, or a partner. So then how does a leader read the real power map of the situation?
So I think, why I call my company Innojo, it's a combination of two words. First is innovate. So all these situations required innovation. Very, very difficult to comment that how would you do it, because like you correctly said, there could be so many stakeholders.
Right.
And what happens is, like I've seen where you tend to fight with a transport guy, he'll stop delivery only. No truck will leave the plant, so you'll lose your job as it is. Trust me, I've seen that happening. I don't want to name the companies, but they said, then what the hell were you doing? Why is production not going out? The guy was sacked, CEO. Now what does he do? Does he please that guy? Why truck dane do? So yes, the situation and the labor unions, they always tend to get, labor unions, the normal trick is they will demand, and then the moment they aggravate, they are then supported by the bigger boys who come in, because the bigger boys want their, they're really going to, mafias of the world, and they'll try to make it even bigger. So very, very difficult. Every situation is very, very, you need a very innovative, kind of what do I say, a whole holistic solution, like they call it. So
and sometimes you have to think on the feet at that time itself.
Exactly, at that time. Most of the situations, these are psychological situations. If you're not able to think at that time, it's like I've had a situation, the guy says, I will burn my self-immolation. I will do it just now. He said in Kannada, but I could understand what he was saying. So I immediately said, Acha, na, hold on. He's like, he thought I'm saying कि don't do it, we'll do something. I called my guy, अरे जो call the cameraman, अच्छा नहीं मेकअप वाले को भी बुला ठीक तरह करेंगे. ऐसे नहीं रुक जाओ, बड़ा वाला कैन ला, इसको इधर से गिराएंगे ना तेल तो वो आग इधर से फोटो अच्छा आएगा. And the, it was such a blind call I took. The guy got so scared that I'm a madman, he ran away. Now, had he done something, I would have then died. So, yes, you're absolutely right. And also, in many situations, there is a tendency that the other guy might get violent with you. So, emotional intelligence is the key factor here. Your emotional intelligence has to be really playing in your favor at that time. And violence is very, very easy for these guys. Rod liya, maar diya, kuch kar diya, gaadi ka tod diya, shisha.
Plus your family, extortion. I mean, they could.
That's very normal
ransom, all of
nowadays.
that.
They'll send a chit under the door and all.
They will
Apne biwi bacche pyare nahi hai, this, that. And then you go home, your wife is going to, so.
Yeah.
So these things have become very common, and somehow, the law and the legal system is so overloaded that nobody really has a time, you know. I remember coming to Mumbai, meeting an IG. I was like, so I left my phones in Delhi and I just took a flight and I came because the lawyers were really scaring me. I was like, "Main kyun chupu? I'm not going to hide." I was one of those. So I came. So it's like, "Aap kaise aa gaye? I believe you're going to arrest me." He says, "Acha chai pee." I said, "Chai pilao." Then he was busy on the phone. Those days, Mr. Modi was not the prime minister. Some rally was going to happen or something. After some time, he says, तुम्हें लगता है हम खाली बैठे हैं यहाँ तेरे जैसे को अरेस्ट करेंगे यार तुम्हारा क्या एक स्टूपिड सा जमीन का इकोनॉमिक है यहाँ पे इतना प्रॉब्लम चल रहा है ना तुम you think we are free. I said, but then why are we filing anticipatory bail?
Correct.
He said, because you guys are mad, you want to pay the lawyers, you're filing now, I will have to forcefully oppose your bail, whereas I don't want to arrest you. I don't have time to arrest you, trust me, he tells me. तेरे को लग रहा है मैं पुलिस दिल्ली भेज के तेरे को अरेस्ट करके यहाँ लाऊंगा. So, I've had many situations.
Lawyers also will have to learn, yeah.
No, but see, then that's their KPI, no?
उनका काम है.
वो उनका है वो काम, वो अपना काम तो करेंगे ही. And see, when you're in a crisis, no, you just don't, anybody says anything, you are ready to give anything for a solution.
Correct. Can the company have a legal right and still be completely wrong? I mean, can be legally right and still be completely wrong in the way it handles people?
Mostly I've seen that happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's absolutely a question of how are you, your touch points of the company could be so bad. It could just mean that your purchase guy is rude, your CRM is rude, and your CEO is anyways very arrogant, doesn't want to talk to anybody. Your security guards are also so rude. People come, he's going to say, "Dafa ho jao, time nahi hai." Like they do in some of the embassies that get lost, there's no time.
Correct.
So I think the touch points of the companies make all the difference, create a perception. Whereas if you're a kind of a nice, calming, it's like, so real estate developers had a lot of problem in most of the projects, at least in the north.
Yes.
So I think what I noticed after some time, all of them have a reception where they'll have some bhajan or something. Calm down before you get into a fight.
Yeah.
So
and before RERA came in, most of the projects were getting delayed and a lot of things was wrong.
Even most pre-RERA, though, there was no, see, when you don't have any rules of the game,
Correct.
what do you expect? RERA is just the rules of the game now.
Correct.
So you have to follow the rules of the game. Now, obviously, there will be some certain leeways in that people will take, but at least you are aware. So you're not taking a blind risk anymore.
And from what I'm listening to, I feel that more and more as a leader, as a CEO, you're, like you said, it's not just about your role, your business acumen that you are. EQ matters. It's more and more your emotional quotient.
Majorly.
It's that's where, and I also say the empathy and the adaptability.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the EQ and the AQ now that the world has really changed. That's more that is coming to play, like from what I'm listening to you. So the things that leaders cannot outsource. A leader cannot be present everywhere. So how does a CEO, MD, a leader, business head, ensure and what are the signs they should be looking out before a crisis really happens?
So I think what I realized was that, you got to be, so the situation is that you'll have plants or projects all over the country or maybe multiple countries.
Correct.
And I think the only way to probably, there are some ways to do it. What I used to do is I can say I would, so we used to maintain a list of birthdays and all, and at least even if it is a junior most employee, I would give him a call and then even ask, how is your family, this, that, hoping that if there is some problem, he might use that opportunity to tell me.
Okay, so those town halls, the
town halls, nobody speaks because then
so this is
politics
more
come into play. But it's
right.
a one-to-one call
One-to-one.
or when I'm visiting, I would request everybody, yeah, let me just walk alone. Or when I reach office in the morning, I will go on a different floor, just keep walking and meeting people. I
Yes.
think that was my way. I was able to, when you see this, somebody is stressed, you could see this kya ho raha hai. Somebody will
Correct.
open up, say, I didn't want to say, please
Correct.
don't take my name, but this has
Right,
happened.
right, right. So you do the litmus test
I mean,
by
that's what I used to do in
listening.
our time. Nowadays, again, there's this whole, the Gen Z culture is further challenged. I don't know how to handle that. So
That's a different
it's a
podcast
complete
conversation.
podcast we can have sometime later.
Once asked you about your family and we did speak, but in your book you are talking about that, when the crisis enters home and your son heard people saying that you're a thief. Now, how do you really protect your family? I mean, everything, their emotions. So, how do you really do that?
No. So I think it's very difficult because, like my son walks in home and tells my wife that, there's a protest going on against somebody's looted people of crores and all. Till then my wife was quiet, but then she's, it's your father only. And immediate reaction which came to my mind that, you idiots, when you go out, travel, shop and everything, that's my salary, what I earn. It's not those bloody crores. But you can't say that, the moment you do that, you're done. So
Of
you
course.
go, it's a difficult situation, but I used to, try and tell them, listen, these are just theatrics. They don't want to pay, and that's why they're doing this. And something not 100% genuine, something made up, but something which is like a sugar coated, and just to diffuse the discussion that let's talk something
True,
else.
true. What did you lose during those years? Because today in the hindsight, I mean, you're talking about, but what nobody really has seen. What did you really lose?
I think I've become a totally different person. Earlier, emotions used to matter, relations used to matter. Now, anything happens, and be it my kids and wife also, I start calculating downside. Kya ho jayega bura se bura, I've seen that big change
You've
in
seen
me.
your worst.
And I don't now go out socializing with friends, or, because I've realized that
Really
in the real phase, uh, very few come to
stood
help.
by you. Okay.
Yeah. And stood by me also, saying that, we know you're not wrong, and hang up the phone. Then what do? I know I'm not wrong. Yeah, you don't need to tell me.
Mm.
But what I saw is that closest of your relations also tend to somewhere in their mind think कि कुछ तो किया
हाँ,
होगा.
मैं वही बोल रही हूँ. That is,
If there is something coming in newspaper and there is cases, how is it possible he's not done anything right? पक्का कुछ किया होगा. And then if you're leading a life where you're on TV and newspaper, and फिर तो पक्का ही किया होगा इसने. ऐसे थोड़ी है. So I realized that there were a lot of people who were acting to be close to me, but they were actually, just probably with me because they're probably expecting a favor or something, but there was a huge jealousy inside them. So when my things went down,
sad, yeah.
it all became so evident, So
Correct.
yeah, the big change in me is that now anything happens, it's kind of a calculation that, okay, we've lost this account, now what's gonna happen? Tuck 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 calculation, and I'm okay.
You're okay. You're more resilient yourself.
I'm resilient myself. I can
Yeah.
stay alone for days and days. While writing a book, most of the time I prefer to stay alone.
So if someone reads Relax, It's Only a Raid, what do you want them to understand about leadership that they will not learn from any management college?
Whatever management book, company manuals are going to teach you best practices, right?
Right.
But there is a difference between best practices and practical practices.
Correct.
Just doing we do all best practices doesn't help here. There are many things you got to understand. So my purpose of writing this was, one, like I said, I wanted my story to be out so that at least some people start believing. Otherwise, it's just I can't go harping, yaar mere pe case ho gaya, ye ho gaya. I don't want anybody's sympathy. Second was, this serves as like a handy book. So if you have, let's say something happens, and these are all kind of incidents which normally happen, take 5 minutes, read the chapter, it might help you.
So it's just more like your
Handy book
go-to
kind of a thing, yeah.
go-to book handbook. Yeah, because I saw in your first chapter you are explaining all income tax. The क्या बोलते हैं,
the section
sections
143,
and
yeah, because when they
correct.
come on email, no, nowadays
Yeah.
come very frequently
Correct.
nowadays.
कि
So
किस उसका क्या है और क्या
हाँ,
करना,
तो
which was very interesting. I was reading
yeah.
that.
So half the time, you forward it to your CA, he'll say, oh, notice aa gaya. Arey bhai, it was a normal 123. It is routine. There's nothing wrong in it. But people try to see, a lot of business works and survives only on fear.
True. True. Plus, you have your team, you're dependent. Just say section
Yeah.
123. ये वो, no idea.
No
You
idea.
don't
Na?
have.
Even I didn't have any idea.
No,
वो
you
आ गया, मैं
learnt-
तो
you
go
learnt
send
it.
it to the CA यार.
Right. So, as after everything that you have seen, what according to you is a winning mindset now?
I think the winning mindset is about agility. You got to be totally agile, because especially with this geo whatever situations
Yeah,
happening, you
true.
don't even know what's happening tomorrow.
Correct.
Earlier we could plan 5 years. Some people used to plan 10 years.
Yeah,
Abhi
yeah.
though it's so difficult. So you got to be totally agile that tomorrow you're in Bombay, you might have to be in some other country to solve
Correct.
something. You got to be totally agile. You don't know it's become very unpredictable, the whole world.
Yeah, correct. That's true. With AI and geopolitics, you really don't
You
know.
really don't know what
Yeah.
you're going to do.
Correct. No, that's true. So thank you, Vineet. And on that note, I'm going to go in a more lighter zone of a rapid fire. We're going to have just some fun questions. So finish this sentence. The biggest mistake a senior executive makes in a crisis is?
Being loud. Don't even speak loud. Keep quiet.
Go ahead, be calm. Finish the sentence. The thing I wish I had understood before Sare was?
जो दिखता है वो फंसता है. Visibility without control.
I like that line, visibility without control. Which is harder, facing an angry crowd outside the office or facing your family at home?
Facing a family at home.
One person you call first when a situation starts going wrong?
So normally, I call a person who I know has been in a similar situation to understand what happens in this. मतलब ये वाले case में क्या करा था तेरे साथ. So I don't pick up the phone, call a lawyer, because normally you know people, and very, very important, don't feel shy about it. People don't talk about it. One of the things is most of the CEOs have cases, they will never tell anybody, they'll get into a shell of their own.
Yeah, it's not public.
It's just not right. Yeah. Call somebody else. So many people have such cases. There must be another peer who's at similar level. He would have also had it.
Yes,
it's not that your insurance company was only there. Every insurance company faced that problem.
Yes, true. No, true. So one chapter of Relax, it's only a read. You want every young professional to definitely read first.
The income tax one, I think, because it's become a prevalent practice nowadays, getting notices.
Right.
And I think the way things are, the chartered accountants will probably lose their job with AI doing all the accounting. So these notices, do not get into fear. Please read what's it about.
Correct. So thank you very much on that note, and it was an amazing conversation. I do feel that this book should be in all MBA colleges and it should start there.
Thanks a lot, Darshana. Pleasure meeting you. Thank you for having me.